When I was in Kiev last week, speaking with several people on the Ukrainian side, they seemed, quite perplexed. They'd tell me, we've asked for these weapons, like the HIMARS, and the US or the West initially says no. But then, 8 or 9 months later, they deliver them. It sounds like the same issue is happening with the ATACMS and the F-16s. They're wondering, if you're going to give them to us, why not do it quickly?
Well, I think, over the period of time, we have given them a considerable amount of military aid, about $40 billion worth so far. And there's over $100 billion in total aid, if you include monetary and humanitarian aid. So that's just the United States. The United States has been extraordinarily generous with
No,
the
it has,
Ukrainian
but
people.
the question is, if you want them to win,
well, yeah, and the speed.
why not do it fast?
Yeah, so the question is the speed. There's mechanical issues there in terms of how fast you can marshal this equipment and how fast you can get it across the lines of communication from adjacent countries, and then how fast they can absorb it. So it's not just sprinkle magic dust and the stuff starts showing up. The other thing is need. So at the beginning of this war, the greatest need was for anti-armor weapons, for example, to stop the Russian offensive, and that's what they got. And then as they shifted into what the current operation is, their need were tanks, Bradleys, Leopards, Gepards, those sorts of mechanized and armored vehicles of various types. And the West was very generous in providing those. And then you have to have the training to go along with them and spare parts, the munitions that go with those things. So all of that does take a period of time to do. It's not a question of, it just all shows up at once.
From your perspective, how would you assess the current state of the counteroffensive? Does it appear that the Ukrainians are beginning to successfully push the Russians out of key cities and towns?
Well, I think they've been doing it pretty consistently, actually, since last summer. The winter was a lot of fighting, but not a lot of movement. And then this offensive, although slower than the planners had anticipated, it has been steady. And they have made steady progress through these various defensive belts. And they have fought hard up in Bakhmut. They fought down in Donetsk. And of course, they're fighting down in the vicinity of Zaporizhia and down towards Melitopol and Mariupol and all that. So it has been steady progress. What I said months ago was it was going to be long, hard, bloody, because the nature of this particular fight and the type of defense that the Russians put in and the capabilities of the Ukrainians augured for a very, very difficult, long, tough fight. But the Ukrainians have been doing that. They have a lot of combat power remaining. The Ukrainians are not a spent force. And there's sufficient weather that allows them to continue to achieve their steady progress. They have not failed. I know there's some commentary out there that somehow this offensive has failed. It hasn't failed. It's at least achieved partial success. They're already through several of these belts, and they've got time left. So we'll see where it goes. But the Ukrainians have demonstrated an incredible ability of courage, resilience, toughness, and they are slowly but steadily working the way through some very, very difficult Russian defenses. Well, we'll see. I think it's. I wouldn't want to make a prediction on that just yet. We'll see what happens. Again, there's well over 200,000 Russian troops in Russian-occupied Ukraine. This offensive, although significant, has operational and tactical objectives that are limited in the sense that they do not, even if they are fully achieved, they don't completely kick out all the Russians, which is the broader strategic objective that President Zelensky had. That's going to take a long time to do that. That's going to be very significant effort over a considerable amount of time. I don't want to put a time on it because a lot of things can happen in a war that's action, reaction, counteraction. You could see a general collapse. You could see escalation. You could see a lot of different things happen in the future. But I can tell you that it'll take a considerable length of time to militarily eject all 200,000 or plus Russian troops out of Russian-occupied Ukraine. That's a very high bar. It's going to take a long time to do it.
You have said that China is on track to have a military that might even be more powerful than the United States.
That's their objective.
And you say they are moving in that direction.
They're trying to move in that direction.
Is it possible that we will look back and think that we overestimated them in the way that I remember estimations of Soviet military power that in retrospect were wildly off?
Sure.
I remember the estimates of Saddam Hussein's military that in retrospect were wildly off.
Sure.
Are we, is it possible that because it's a bit of a black box and we don't know a lot, that we tend to think our enemies are taller than they are?
Absolutely. I mean, that's very possible. And the Chinese are not 10 feet tall. And notice I said that's their plan, that's their desire, that's their aspiration. And if we stay still, if the United States stays still and the United States military stays still and we don't modernize, then there's a reasonable chance the Chinese would succeed in doing that. But what you've seen, Fareed, is probably the largest shift in economic power in well over a century since the rise of the United States economically in the late 1800s, perhaps even multiple centuries, the rise of the West, or the fall of Rome, something like that. You've seen an enormous shift in global economic power to China, beginning with the reforms of Deng Xiaoping in 79. I'm commissioned in 1980, so 45 years ago, the economics of the world began to shift. So today you've got the manufacturing capital of the world, without exception is China. And in the wake of that shift in economic power, the Chinese took that money and have invested in making a world-class military. That's what they're trying to do. They want a military that's very capable in space, in cyber, and then the traditional domains of land, sea, and air. They've developed, fourth and fifth generation fighter bombers, really copying our designs. They're trying to develop a blue water navy, a subsurface navy. They've reformed their ground forces from an infantry peasant-based army of the 1970s to a modern army with multiple commands, etc. So they're on the path to do that. And their goal is to exceed the United States military capability in East Asia, really by the end of this decade, certainly by the middle of next decade. And they want the United States to exit East Asia militarily and diplomatically. They want us to cease being the arbiter of outcomes in Asia. And they want to be the global challenger of the United States by mid-century. They want to meet or exceed U.S. military capabilities by mid-century. But we're not going to stand still. The United States is going to continue to modernize, continue to invest. And I know it sounds a bit like a bumper sticker, but there is value in the phrase peace through strength. So the objective here is deterrence. You don't want a great power war. We had a great power war in World War I. We had a great power war in World War II. We haven't had one in 80 years. And we need to make sure that we avoid a great power war. And China, can be evaluated a lot of different ways, but great power is certainly what they are. Economically, militarily, they're capable. And we should try our very best to avoid open armed conflict with China.
If you like our today's video, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel and comment subscribed. I'll make sure to leave a reply to each one of my viewers. Thanks for watching this video.